Amplats was widely criticized for its planned slashing of the 14,000 jobs by mothballing shafts, suspending processing plants and flagging the sale of a mine, with the African National Congress calling for the surrender of the mining licenses. The party described the move as cynical and dangerous in the extreme. Joining us now from our Cape Town studios to unpack relations between the mining sector and government in particular and the broader economy in general is CEO of Pan-African Capital Holdings, Dr. Iraj Aberdian. Dr. Aberdian, thank you for joining us here on Beyond Markets. We've got a very difficult situation here. Of course, cool heads are required in this period. I have just spoken to the spokesperson for Susan Shabangu, the Minerals Minister in South Africa, and she's confirmed that Ms. Shabangu has indeed met the CEO of Amplats. What do you think the next move ought to be, both from the side of government and from Amplats, given that temperatures have been raised quite high?
Thanks very much, Karima. Clearly, what has happened and transpired over the past 48 hours is not the way to go about it. Spitting fire and accusing and insulting each other in public is not the best way when temperature rises. South Africa is under a spotlight globally. The investment community is watching very carefully how leadership in business, in labor, and in government in particular will handle this tension. So what needs to be done is for the government to take the lead, to calm nerves, to engage in a professional, composed, and respectful way, recognizing that it's not just Anglo-Plat that they are talking about, it's the entire mining industry and to some extent the entire global investment community that they are dealing with.
Now, Dr. Aberdian, when I spoke with the Deputy Secretary General, Jessie Duarte, of the ruling party last night, she said that they had met with the Chamber of Mines and exchanged and had an open and frank conversation about not so much the overhaul, but the manner in which it was done. And one of the issues that she raised was, of course, the concern of the ruling party about the 45,000 jobs that could also be affected. And she raised this in the context of Anglo having applied for new mining licenses, and the ruling party is extremely worried that there might be implications, beyond the 14,000 jobs. From where you're sitting, what are the implications? Is this the first in a progressing divestment from South Africa? Is that where we're going?
Not at all. I think there is no question of divestment. Over the past 2 years, the entire platinum industry has been engaging government. It's been a public media. The platinum industry in South Africa is in the throes of structural issues, not just labor issues, price issues, demand issues, uncoordinated local market supply, and also regulatory issues. So it's not about Anglo-Plat, it's about the entire industry. The minister, government, and all the analysts have known this over the past 2 years. So to sensationalize one case is not appropriate, and as you quite correctly mentioned, if we don't manage this case, all other platinum companies are under pressure, and job losses could go way beyond the 14,000 that Anglo-Plat has announced. So we need to manage this very, very carefully and in a very composed and coordinated manner.
Now, of course, you were in a previous life an advisor to Minister Shabangu. You know the DMR quite intimately and very well. From an insider's perspective, Dr. Aberdian, how, in your mind, has Ms. Shabangu been dealing with this matter? Have they provided the kind of leadership that is required to deal with what is clearly quite a delicate issue?
I think it's quite clear that the government has not heard the cry of the industry over the past 2 years. There has been a number of meetings in the Platinum Task Team. The business has been pushing. And it's not just government. Platinum management or executives have not done themselves a service either. There's been too much change in Lonmin, in Anglo-Plat, and that has also affected the level of coordination between government and the industry. But be as it may, my view is that we need to take things from where they are. Government has to lead the national interest and be very, very careful not to over-sensationalize the situation.
Now, of course, the ANC has called for the possibility of auctioning those shafts that have been mothballed to invite other partners. And in the interview I conducted with Ms. Duarte last night, she was talking about South Africa's other partners in BRICS, and there has been some talk about possibly bringing in the Chinese. Is that potentially on the cards?
It could well be. If that happens and if comes to pass, it would be a new chapter in the administration of mining rights in South Africa. And it's very questionable whether if a company as established as Amplats cannot make money out of those shafts, who else could? It's not about mismanagement, it's about the market conditions on the demand side and cost structure. So if Amplats cannot make it, government has to be very careful to analyze it very carefully as to why is it that somebody else could do but Anglo cannot. I do not believe that there is any bad faith or any lack of interest by Amplats in making money out of platinum. So there are those structural issues that have to be dealt with.
A final question, Dr. Aberdian. We saw yesterday the banks were again downgraded. That comes off the back of two downgrades last year. From where you're sitting, what is the outlook for the South African economy, considering that, you know, the global situation is not looking that bright either?
Exactly. I mean, those are the conditions that government has to be very careful about, bearing in mind that the mining sector is a major exporter. The downgrade to our economy by 3 rating agencies has come on the back of the fact that our growth has fallen below 2.5%. Our balance of payments is in a structural deficit and government deficit is rising. So because government revenue is falling, because growth is falling. So this whole outlook at the moment is a very tentative situation, and what we cannot afford to do is to threaten and discourage foreign investment into the country. Our production side, mining and manufacturing, agriculture needs a stability, and government needs to lead that stability and inspire confidence in the investment community.